What's up, everybody? We are back with a final interview here at the Arival conference in San Diego, and we are talking to ALYSSA Schoenfield, the owner and operator of Bites of Boston, which is a food tour in Boston, Massachusetts. ALYSSA, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So do you want to tell the viewers and the listeners a little bit about your company, what you guys do?
Sure. So I started the business in Boston 13 years ago this month, and I just always growing up, it's actually funny, I'm half Greek on my mother's side, and growing up a lot of our traditions, a lot of our family get-togethers revolved around food, and I thought at a very young age that we had all those food traditions because we were Greek, and that's just what Greek people do. They have all these food traditions.
Some, avalamel soup, maybe, a few of those things.
Spanakopita, that's a big one in my family, and it just came along to every family gathering. So as I got older, I started to realize that, wow, lots of cultures, all cultures have these kind of food-related portions of their culture and their family gatherings when they get together, and that just really was fascinating to me, and I always wanted to know when I traveled what people are eating, why they're eating it, the stories behind it. So that's just been something I've always done in my free time. And after 10 years in the corporate world, including a move from Boston to Seattle, I took my first food tour. I fell in love with the whole concept and just really kept going back to the restaurants I learned about during the 4 years that I lived in Seattle, and I felt much more endeared to all the locations because I had some background and some context on the actual people that were running those businesses, which just always kind of brings things full circle for me. So after a totally unexpected layoff to the end of 2010, I decided to just switch gears completely, bring those passions together.
Wow, so good.
Move back to Boston, try something new, see how it went, and 13 years later, here we are.
Love it. Awesome.
13 years and a pandemic later. So,
yeah, the pandemic is a good asterisk for those of us who are involved in the travel industry, for sure. So, all right, so Arival conference, San Diego, it's wrapped. Were you a veteran of Arival or a first timer like me?
This is my second time.
Okay.
So I came in 2019. I haven't been back since the pandemic happened. Prior to that, we had a pretty robust food tour conference going that was pretty much all food tour operators. So we met in different cities 4 years in a row.
Wow, that sounds fun.
2019. Oh, so much fun. We're all just, people, creative, love to talk, love to eat, and when you bring a bunch of those people together.
Sounds horrible.
Only good things happen. Yeah. So I do miss that. To tell you the truth, Arival obviously has a much broader range in terms of, it covers really just anything you can think of, the gamut of travel experiences, which is great, and it's really fun to meet people from those other businesses that are sometimes entirely different than yours, from the style of what they're doing, the type of tour, to the size of the business, to the locations. This is a worldwide gathering here, but I do sometimes miss just being around just my fellow food tour.
Totally. Well, you might have to start it again. I know your husband doesn't want you to, but
I do. I have trouble saying no and keeping my plate clear. So.
I love it. Okay, so for this year's Arival conference, what was your key takeaway?
In terms of key takeaways, it sort of seems like AI was the hot topic. Just AI in all types of capacities, from better managing your communication with customers, within your team, just applying it to just all facets of the business. I wasn't expecting it to be kind of that profound of a thing, but obviously it's here, and it seems like the direction that a lot of companies, especially those wishing to really expand quickly, it seems like it really cuts down on a lot of the time it takes them to set up shop in a new place if you're using it in that way. So that was kind of my takeaway as far as the direction that the industry overall is sort of going, or something new that it's embracing. But also just that, the tourism side of things is healthy and has recovered, and people still seem really passionate about, introducing people to their home cities and being engaged in travel for themselves as well, which, sort of was a question mark there for a couple of years.
A little bit, yeah. I loved hearing that statistic that we're back to 101% of pre-pandemic travel industry total numbers, but the experiences side is over 40% from a growth perspective. So I think it shows where the opportunity is. You know, and the AI of it all, you know, I'm a bit of a Luddite by design, I suppose. I'm not what you would call an early adopter, but once I see the power of something, I'm generally swayed pretty quickly, and then I become a full evangelist. And where I kind of saw it in my industry is on the sales side. So I was introduced to a few AI tools by Force to kind of show how AI could essentially reach out to people at scale and help set up appointments and, you know, demonstrations and meetings and things like that. And so I challenged myself. I said, well, I'll write a sales sequence and I'll challenge myself against the AI. And the AI beat me on open rate, reply rate, and meeting rate. So what I did is I embraced it because I saw, well, what AI is doing is, you know, of course a supercomputer can figure out who are the right people for me to meet, what's the right messaging to get them to open an email, what's the right messaging to get them to the reply, and what is the right messaging to get them to click on a link to book a meeting. Because that's what super quantum data sets do, is they find the things that drive whatever the necessary action at scale. So what I do is the entire time I was here at this conference, I did not open my email or phone one time. But every single day I sent out 500 emails to potential partners that I want to talk to. So when I get home, I'll have a whole inbox to go through of people that actually, I won't even have to go through all of the emails always. I just show up to the appointments and have conversations with real people like you on the phone, on video, or in the real world. So I think the promise of AI is it will allow us to spend more time together doing the things that we love, which is being in person and building relationships. And we'll hopefully continue to automate things that are grind work or busy work and allow us to inject humanism into the things that actually matter, like something like a human experience, like a tour or something like that. So we'll see if it delivers on the promise.
In looking at it that way, I think that that's very powerful and also a great way. Anything that brings us back to spending more time in person with one another, I think is really important.
Totally.
It sort of takes a robot, for lack of a better word, to get us there, but everything has become so behind a screen, and a lot of the communication that people are doing in place of face-to-face communication. And I know for me, there were a lot of tasks that were starting to take up a lot of my day that at some point, you know, could be potentially assisting getting that busy work off of my plate. And right now I have an employee who's taken over that portion of it, but if that could free her up and I could have that same employee do something that's a little less busy work and a little bit more forward thinking and strategic for the business, then I think that it's important.
I love it.
Important thing to consider.
I love it. So let's switch to travel marketing. What's the main channel that you find customers in?
You know, most of the customers are finding us looking for food tours. This isn't really how things started. Food tours were really relatively new when I was starting, and they were in a few cities. It was starting to become popular. Nowadays, you can find food tours across the globe, not only in big cities, but in very small cities and towns as well. So if people go on a food tour experience and really enjoy their first one, they tend to seek them out everywhere that they go. So that was working great, you know, for us. Still today, I have a mix of customers who come who consider themselves food tour aficionados. They've been on enough to, you know, consider themselves professional food tour goers to those who have never heard of them before. So most of it comes through Google searches, just people looking for those things to do. And then we've also worked really hard to kind of, you know, rank online for some of the different things that people would be doing. Blogging has helped us a ton, especially on the corporate side of things, if we're doing private group tours. So just kind of trying to anticipate what people are going to be looking for, where there's kind of a gap in our market, or that we are so uniquely different from a lot of the things that people would be looking for, that we can get them to our website and hopefully have them, you know, choose a food tour as their activity of choice, even if that's not what they were going into.
I love it.
The search thinking for.
So you aren't as focused on making people aware of food tours as a category. At this point, that has somewhat ubiquitous recall from a branding perspective. People know that they exist in most every cities that they go to.
Yeah.
So the demand is there. You just need to make sure that the demand finds you instead of one of your competitors.
Yeah. However, the competitive landscape has definitely gotten a lot more competitive in the past few years too, which is not what I was expecting. It seems like, coming out of the pandemic to start something brand new, but here we are, and I guess overall that's really great for travel and tourism. But within Boston, I was really the first food tour that focused on restaurants in the city 13 years ago, and now there's probably 14 or 15.
Holy cow!
In the North End neighborhood, which is our Little Italy alone. So things have changed, and it is now time to really get strategic about kind of going after some of that business from a digital marketing perspective. So that was where I spent a lot of time this conference, having those conversations with some of the professionals in that area to see how we can kind of utilize their services to help us fill the tours that we now have on our calendar that used to fill up more organically, that we now need to kind of make an effort to put ourselves back at the top.
Yeah, sometimes competition can be a good thing because it forces you to get scrappy and try new things, and some of those new things become revenue accelerators for you even in a crowded marketplace, because you discover a new marketing channel that outperforms things that maybe you didn't have to do before because things were a little bit on autopilot because they were working, right?
Yes.
So I love it. All right, very cool. Well, ALYSSA, where can viewers or folks that are watching on video today find out more about Bites of Boston if they decide to visit Boston anytime soon, or connect with you to potentially talk about business?
Yes, so I'm on LinkedIn, ALYSSA Schoenfield, so you can find me there. My company is Bites of Boston Food Tours. We are bitesofbostonfoodtours.com, so we have a website there. You can contact us that way, see all of our tours and our availability online. And we're also on social media, on Instagram. We are at Bites of Boston.
Cool.
Check us out and those places.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and safe travels back to Boston.
My pleasure. Same to you. Thanks so much.
See you soon.